Success Secrets of Jesus, Daniel Ortiz says, sincere gratitude reflects the virtue of humility. Sincere gratitude reflects the virtue of humility. And when I saw that sentence in this thick book, where do I open up to? I thought, how perfect for today, since today's topic is gratitude and humility, which are two practices that will support us in doing the works that Jesus did and even greater works. As I've said on the previous Sundays regarding this series, I think sometimes we think that if we don't turn water into wine, if we don't raise the dead or whatever, Jesus had some kind of special dispensation. We can't do this, therefore, we're chopped liver, something like that. But we can start out smaller and hopefully build up to I don't know if I've got 22 and a half years sobriety, so I don't want to change any water to wine, but I wouldn't mind raising the dead and healing the sick and walking on water. I saw Rennie and Bob Courtney turned me on to this Netflix show called Messiah. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but anyway, this guy that people think is the Messiah, one of the things he does is he walks across the reflecting pond in Washington. I'd like to do that. But I think I have some work to do on basics before I get to that level, and probably we all do. So the human condition that today's message addresses is thinking that gratitude is just for what we've already received, and that humility is a weakness. And the spiritual solution is realizing that gratitude is to be expressed for whatever is, and experiencing humility as a strength. So what would be in it for you if you were to bring your practice of gratitude and humility to a greater level? What would that do for you in your everyday life? Any ideas, suggestions out there?
I'd be more humble.
You'd be more humble, right? You'd be demonstrating that humility.
I would feel grace.
You would feel grace. You'd feel in the flow of grace. Right?
Deep peace.
You'd feel deep peace. Yeah.
I think I'd be more aware of what's going on around me.
Yeah, more aware, more conscious to the present moment.
Appreciative of everything that's happened in my life when I do gratitude.
Appreciative of everything that's happening in your life, no matter what, is what I like to say. We don't get to cherry pick it. Yes?
I would feel more connected with other people.
More connected with others, knowing your oneness more. Great. Yeah, as we focus on gratitude, the other thing that happens is we then open ourselves to receiving more abundantly. We sort of send out ripples of energy that says, I'm open and receptive to my good. We can be happier and more joyful, healthier. Last week we were talking about the impact of what was last week's topic? Oh, it was really memorable. I think it was forgiveness. How do we know when we need to forgive, right? We're not feeling appreciative, we're not feeling it. And I talked about heart math and how the rhythms of the heart, when we are humble and when we're in gratitude, we put our heart in coherence with the very mind of God, the love of God. And we become, it opens our heart. So that same thing applies in addition to forgiveness, it applies to gratitude especially, and humility. So let's talk about gratitude first. I like the fact that gratitude invites me to be a receiver as well as a giver. So when someone gives me something, a compliment or a tangible item or whatever, it's important for me to give thanks back, right? to feel that gratitude, to accept it, to not just say, this old thing, you know, or whatever, but to really express our appreciation and our gratitude back so that we, as we receive, we also give back. It also, as someone mentioned, brings us to the present moment. I think Janine mentioned that it brings us to the present moment. In order to be grateful, I have to be present to what I'm grateful for. It also is about, as Christine was saying, giving thanks in all things. Not just those things that we judge as good, but also to be grateful right in the midst of whatever we may be going through, knowing there's a pony in here somewhere, right? Somewhere in here there's a blessing. And so when we live in a state of gratitude, our whole focus becomes focused on the good that we have and the good that is in the world. We can be grateful when we are mindful enough to realize the good that's happening. And Circe says gratitude is the steering mechanism that helps us change our perception of events. I love that. The steering mechanism that changes our perception of events to something more life-affirming by paying attention to the good and looking for the blessing in the situation. I remember when we were still at the Santa Fe Women's Club and we only had the sanctuary on Sunday mornings and we only had choir practice on Thursday nights, and that was it. And then we finally had at least an office where we could have a few classes and stuff, but we wanted so much to be under one roof. And so what we did was we blessed the Women's Club. We kept blessing it. And so that we could appreciate what we had and not be thinking we were in lack because we didn't have our own building. And lo and behold, eventually we got our own building. It was kind of funny as a little aside, but some people said, we don't want a new build, we don't want to go to a building we own or anything because it cost us so much more. And boy, were they right. But we still wanted it. And so I had some resistance from some people, including board people, who just wanted to stay as it is. We were only paying $100 on Sunday for rent and $25 on Thursdays for choir practice. So it was kind of a good deal. And so lo and behold, one day we show up for church and there's a for sale sign. And they're selling the women's club. So we had to move. Guess what? To this day, 20 years later, the women's club has never sold. But we needed that to get us moving, right? So, Greg Braden, she mentions Greg Braden in the book, and he talks about quanta. And quanta are tiny pulses of light with spaces in between. Like if you look at a candle, it's not solid. It's going off and on so fast that we can't even see that it's going off and on. And so he says that those spaces in between are choice points that we have in our life. Choice points. And at these choice points, we can alter a path and an outcome by changing our belief about a situation and focusing on the good, focusing on the divine, and giving thanks in advance. So at any moment in our life, we have these quanta, these choice points. In 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 18, it says, in everything give thanks. Back to what Christine was saying. It doesn't say give thanks for all things. It says in all things give thanks. So to bless the situation, the condition, by realizing that right in the midst of whatever's going on is the presence and the power of the one, of God, of the divine, of whatever, by whatever name you may call it. that right in the midst of it, God is. And so not to give thanks for it. I mean, we don't want to give thanks for some tragedy that happened, but in the midst of it, we can give thanks. We can find something to be grateful about. So how did Jesus express his gratitude? Well, throughout the scriptures, it shows that he gave thanks often, and usually in advance. You know, he didn't wait until something happened to give thanks. He gave thanks in advance, and in so doing, he was demonstrating his belief, his trust, his faith in the outcome. So he created expectation of good manifesting. He demonstrated that gratitude is a tool that prepares our hearts and our minds to receive. So it's gratitude as a cause, not an effect. He didn't wait until something happened. He gave thanks, believing it would happen. He looked beyond appearances of insufficiency and to the potential that he knew existed in the invisible realm. For instance, the loaves and fishes. He gave thanks for what he had. You know, the young boy came up with, what was it, 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread or whatever. And so he gave thanks for what he had, believing that more would be provided. So that's what we are to do. We are to ask from a state of mind that believes our request will be fulfilled, not be doubting Thomas's, right? In Daily Word a number of months ago was an article that I knew one day I'd get a chance to share with y'all. And it was called Transform Your Life with 2 Small Words. Now, what do you think those small words were?
Thank you.
Absolutely. The author, Alina Enriqueta, writes, as much as I love my career, I always felt that there was more that I had to give to the world. Something big, but I didn't know what. An idea came to me. I saw the phrase, a thank you a day, in my mind. I knew I was being called to take action. So I started to write a thank you note a day and sent it to anyone who had helped me. I kept doing this each morning, and before long I found that this simple practice changed my life completely. I became so much more joyful, healthier, and less stressed than I had ever been. Soon after I started sending the notes, she said, I began to notice daily blessings, such as a parking spot appearing out of nowhere, or making a new client connection. Now, she says, I'm more mindful as I go about my daily life, always looking for the good in other people, because I want to find a recipient for my next note. The person could appear as a helpful clerk at a hotel, or the plumber who took extra time to fix an additional problem I didn't know about. So yeah, a thank you note a day. I used to do that years ago. It's time to get back into practice. It is so rejuvenating. It's so wonderful. So no excuse not to do it. So we go from that gratitude to humility. So humility is the ability to see that our gifts originate from source. You know, not me of my human self, but I am given these gifts from source, from the divine. Humility acknowledges the power of God working through us. Humility acknowledges our strength and our weaknesses. The ability to take responsibility for my part in a conflict, you know, takes humility. Humility integrates awe and mystery in our life, and it demonstrates strength and courage. And it also means we are teachable, which reminds me of the story that some of you have heard before about the university professor who visited a Zen master. And while the master quietly served tea, the professor talked about Zen and talked about Zen, and talked about Zen. And the master was pouring the professor's cup of tea to the brim, and then he just kept pouring. And the professor watched the overflowing cup until he could no longer restrain himself, and he said, "It's full. No more will go in." And the master replied, "This is you. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" So humility is about being teachable, being teachable, and being willing to even consider a different point of view. A Course in Miracles says a miracle is being able to see things differently. Wow. And that requires humility. For us to see things differently than maybe we've seen them all along. So what did Jesus do to demonstrate humility? He submitted to Spirit. He allowed himself to be used as God's instrument. And in this humility, he modeled self-assurance and empowerment. He modeled quiet strength and the right, correct expression of power. He modeled the greatest level of humility in his affirmations, "I am." And if you read these "I am" statements as if they're being spoken from Jesus the man, they don't sound very humble. But if you realize he was talking about our "I am" nature, the Christ in each and every one of them, then listen to these affirmations. "I am the light of the world." Not Brendolyn, Minister Unity Santa Fe, blah, blah, blah. I, the Christ in me, is the light of the world. I am the way and the truth and the light. Okay, not Jesus, but the Christ is the way, the truth, and the light. I will give you living water and you will never thirst again. And he, in saying that, the living water was this awareness of our Christ nature, of our divinity. And he acknowledged, this is a big one, it is not I, but the Father within who does the work. He never took human credit for any of the so-called miracles or anything he did. That is true humility. And then he washed the disciples' feet, the story of him washing the disciples' feet. Peter protested or whatever, but he showed his humility by washing the feet of others. So how do we step up to this higher level, an increased level of humility and gratitude? Well, we know first and foremost we do it through prayer and meditation. And I love the fact that appreciation and humble surrender are two of our core values in Unity Santa Fe. So we have that time, gratitude, expressing gratitude, which is called appreciation, is really a prayer. Anytime we express gratitude, we are saying a prayer. In our prayer chaplains, when our prayer chaplains pray with you, it doesn't have to be about some dire situation you're in. Certainly we're available for prayer in those situations, but also there are prayers of gratitude, celebration. So if you have something you want to celebrate, ask one of the prayer chaplains to do a prayer of gratitude with you. Also, to say thank you and to feel it, to really say it with feeling. And to bless everything, even the mundane, to make a gratitude list, at the end of the day, or maybe before you start your day. To express appreciation to others. And one way to do this, in her Miracles Through the Power of Ink, Anita and Gita, whose story I told you earlier, she began teaching workshops, and among the things that she teaches, she shares 3 simple steps. 1, be mindful and look for goodness. look for something to appreciate, to be grateful for. 2, send a small note to the person who helped you today or who somehow enriched your life today. And 3, watch for more goodness to come your way in the form of daily miracles of all kinds. You know, they're happening, but are we watching for them and recognizing them? And in terms of humility, to contemplate those I am affirmations of Jesus. I am the light of the world. I am the way and the truth and the light. I will give you living water and you will never thirst again. Contemplate those affirmations and really allow them to become part of who you are. Acknowledge strengths and weaknesses, especially your own. And integrate awe and mystery in your life. You know, I remember sometimes I'll go, oh wow, I can't believe that happened. And somebody will say, well, you know, you're not very spiritual. Of course, anything can happen. With God, all things are possible. But it's like, I don't want to lose that awe. You know, I want to be in awe and wonder of the stuff that's just amazing. And again, as usual, at the end of each of the chapters of this book, there are activities that you can do to take you beyond the ideas into concrete action. So I celebrate that we go forth from this time together, practicing gratitude and humility to a greater degree in order to do these works that Jesus did, and even greater works than these. And let's begin doing this right now in a sacred time of sharing. And so I invite us to come to this present moment by focusing on the breath. Perhaps breathing, imagining that you're breathing in and out through the heart. Allowing each breath to relax the body, quiet the mind, and open the heart. And today I'd like us to meditate on a Lakota prayer that I believe embodies gratitude and humility. Taking us from a place where we think only of our human selves and our other human beings, but to realize all beings, all creation is important in our lives. And the prayer is Aho, Metakyasun, all my relations, all my relations, all creation. I honor you in this circle of life with me today. I am grateful for the opportunity to acknowledge you in this prayer. To the great Creator, for the ultimate gift of love, I thank you. To the mineral nation that has built and maintained my bones and all foundations of life experience, I thank you. To the plant nation that sustains my organs and body and gives me healing herbs for sickness, I thank you. to the animal nation that feeds others from your own flesh and offers your loyal companionship in this walk of life. I thank you. To the human nation that shares my path as a soul on the sacred wheel of earthly life, I thank you. To the spirit nation that guides me invisibly through the ups and downs of life, and for carrying the torch of light through the ages, I thank you. To the four winds of change and growth, I thank you. You are all my relations, my relatives, without whom I would not live. We are all in the circle of life together, coexisting, codependent, co-creating our destiny. One not more important than the other. One nation evolving from the other. Yet each dependent on the one above, Father Sky, and the one below, Mother Earth. All of us part of the great mystery. Thank you for this life. And I invite us to feel the gratitude and humility of this prayer in a time of sacred silence. And as we gently bring our attention back to this time and place, I invite you to silently say, thank you, great Creator, for the wisdom to practice gratitude and humility to a greater extent than ever before. And in so doing, to do the works that Jesus did and even greater things. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that it is so, and so it is, and so I am.